Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the program. Today's show, we're going to be focusing on all these lies these controllers keep getting caught in. Now, what interests me is that when they lie and get caught, they actually report on it, which seems like kind of like they're trying to be honest, but really what they're trying to do is to control the narrative of how they got caught in the lie, right? It's basically damage control. Now, for the simple fact that these people are constantly being caught in their lies and the way that they approach the government and how unfair it is and all the things that they push upon us, but then they themselves do not follow their own laws, that to me suggests that we're not beholden to their unfair edicts and laws. I mean, how do they lie and keep getting away with this stuff? They're smashing their boots on our necks for far less offenses or arbitrary offenses or things that for like victimless crimes and things. Now, they're always accusing us of misinfo, but it's because they're the ones that are massaging the news to fit their narrative. So not all of our stories are going to deal with these lies that we've exposed, but some of them will today. Got about 20 stories pulled up today for you guys. It's Friday, time to relax and get ready for the weekend. But we always want to be awake and aware of what these people are trying to push past us. Kind of like this first story here. Now, we all know that the public schools have gone down the drain. Everybody knows that. But sometimes they even surprise me with some of this stuff that they try to sneak through. Schools are now trying to hand out spanks to make girls feel even more self-conscious about their weight. I mean, what are they going to do next? Are they going to start handing out socks for boys to stuff in their pants? I mean, this is just nonsense. Let's read this article. My mom says, daughter brought home a letter from school offering shapewear to girls struggling with body image. Baffling. Now, parents are really upset about this, and rightfully so. I mean, this is like asking someone if you think they look fat and they say yes. A middle school in Mississippi is facing criticism for its recent approach to helping girls with their body image by offering to hand out shapewear. What? That, at least according to the outraged mom of an 8th grader who took to Facebook to post the photo of a notice she says was sent home with her daughter. So this is what my 8th grade daughter brought home from school today. I am beyond pissed, wrote Ashley Wells in her Tuesday Facebook post, which included a photo of a permission slip allegedly sent home from South Haven Middle School, public school in South Haven, Mississippi. According to the photo, the notice came with an offer to receive healthy literature as well as shapewear, bras, and other health products. The introduction on the form, which was titled, Why Do Girls Suffer from Body Image?, explained that female body image is a product of personal, social, and cultural experiences. Wow. It's actually a result of all of the unhealthy foods that we've been given to eat and lack of exercise. You know, back when I was in middle school, we had to run a mile like 3 times a week. And you're not going to have an unhealthy body image if you're running a mile 3 times a week. Now, of course, people have different body types, and that's a whole different issue. But you don't solve that by handing out spanks to kids. South Haven Middle School principal and several assistant principals did not respond to requests for comment. Wells in her post continued, so you begin this masterpiece detailing how damaging a negative body image is for girls, how the stress of conforming to an impossible perceived image can adversely affect their mental health, and then offer to give them spanks so they can better fit the perceived image. The image began to go viral when it was posted on Twitter by a woman who found it concerning and tagged it. So, this is what's going on in the schools. Now, we already knew that the schools were in bad shape, but this is just one more nail in the coffin. Let's go on to our next story. Now, this is the woman who tried to secretly buy a house in New Hampshire. Of course, grease well. She tried to buy a house in New Hampshire to escape authorities. And She's basically goes through a whole trial. She's convicted, but the case is now on the verge of being thrown out. Why? Because one of the jurors, who I believe was intentionally placed as a saboteur, started talking about their own personal experiences in life, which were not disclosed to the court in their jury application. So, why do I think the juror is a saboteur? Well, if you've been following the story, it's because they work for the very corrupt blackmail, black ops, and government cover-up group called the Carlyle Group, who had members such as Lynn Bowden, the Bush family, and many other people that were very corrupt, that were deeply involved in secret society, secret services, secret government organizations. And so, how is it that that particular juror made it past jury selection with that background? And all this does is prove what we already know, that the rich always escape justice. Somehow, some way. Still, to this day, I've not seen a real picture of this woman. We don't even know if that's really her with a mask on. She could easily put in a double, and nobody would question it because people are so asleep. Now, how did the judge allow a juror who worked at a company who hires people in government to influence him? I mean, isn't this like a case about like a government cover-up and corruption? Like, why would they allow the juror from the very thing that they're trying to weed out? Now, here's the update on this, because there is an update. The prosecution, realizing that this case may be retried, is now willing to drop some of the charges against her. I'm not going to read this article, but basically, dropping some of these charges would lighten her sentence. And, with good behavior, she could be out a lot sooner than they originally thought. All because of a juror that I believe was hand-selected to sabotage the case. Welcome to the justice system in America. Now, let's get into this next story. Now, I didn't know this, but Tucker Carlson used to debate people who believed that Blind 11 was done by our government. I didn't know this. I really hadn't followed this guy, but he used to be against Blind 11 truthers. And, of course, the media is going to roast him for his reversal in his belief systems, right? Because now he's more awake to all this stuff. But the story basically admits that some things here that I think are interesting. Now, back when Tucker was still asleep to the Blind 11 event, he didn't know how to answer some of these questions that people would throw at him. The article mentions basically that some people challenged him and said in an interview that, how do buildings fall on their own footprint? And that is a very good question. Or how do they fall due to fire for the first time in history? So as the article continues on, it describes how Tucker Carlson debates or had debated some of these people in the past. And his counter argument was always, so what? That doesn't prove anything. And he could never dismiss the truth hiding in his face, because the points that these people made were very valid points. But instead of digging deeper and going, you know what, that is weird, it appears as though Tucker Carlson did not believe what really happened on that day. So let's read some of this, because I want to get you guys up to speed. It's one of the things that annoys me about truthers, he says. Get to the point, make your case. Instead, they start indirectly by raising what they think are highly significant questions. Well, these are significant questions. Like, what's the temperature at which steel melts? Has a building ever collapsed in that way? Has anyone ever seen a building fall like that? And those are very valid points. It's like, okay, what's your point? And the point is always that there is a conspiracy of Americans using tax dollars. Now, the problem is nobody took the initiative in our government to dig out and find why these things happened. Because if they had done a proper investigation, there would have been ample proof of what really happened. But it was a cover-up through and through, top to bottom. And so, therefore, Tucker didn't get his answers. Now, this bothers me about Tucker because if he was so quick to dismiss these people and the very valid points that they made, and all the architects and engineers of Blind 11 Truth, of which their ranks now swell into the thousands, who have put their entire careers on the line to also make the same points, well, I'm a little worried about Tucker at this point. And he may be doing a lot of work to open people's eyes. But you got to ask yourself. Now, I don't even know if he's in the right-left paradigm. I don't really watch this guy. I know a lot of you do. But if he's still in the right-left paradigm, thinking one side or the other is going to fix things, then he may be compromised. Now, let's move on to this next story. Now, this is all about weather warfare. This USA Today article is claiming that 2021 was a deadly year for weather. 20 disasters killed more than 600 Americans. Now, down here in the article, they give an exact number of people killed, and that number is, of course, 688. And apparently, 2021 set all kinds of weather records. Now, you and I know why all this is happening, but of course, they're going to blame climate change in this article. Now, the article goes on to describe that much of the South took the biggest hit with all this. But the Pacific Northwest did as well, and Washington. But the South took much of the big hit in the form of Hurricane Ida and the February freeze. It was like an ice storm across the South. And the tornadoes, of course. Unbelievable. 20 events marked the second highest total on record. 2 events shy of 2020 record of 22 events. Wow. Now, let's get into this next article. This is the update on Slouchy. More emails say that he concealed lab leak information. Let's read this one. Now, just so you know, I don't believe them that this came out of this lab. This may be smokescreen once again to conceal the true origin of where this came from, to keep the right-left paradigm going so that people dislike China. And so just understand that I don't believe this. But here's what's... I'm reading this article to make a point that even in the midst of this guy getting roasted, Slouchy getting roasted, they're still listening to this guy. And that shows the lies and hypocrisy. There's no way a person like this would stay where they're at. They would have been replaced last year or the year before. Ryan Grimm and Emily discuss a breaking announcement from the congressional Republicans about Rising is a weekday morning show with bipartisan hosts that breaks the mold of morning TV by taking viewers inside the halls of Washington. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, where's the story? Jeez. Sniped our story here. Releases email showing. Okay, so the headline says it all, right? So scientists also knew that Vidco leaked from the lab, what they're saying, right? Not what we believe, but feared the debate would hurt international harmony. Now, who knows? Did Vidco actually come from the lab? Probably not. I don't think so. Again, I believe it was a smokescreen. But look at this. This is crazy. Like, oh, the international harmony argument. Kind of like what they said with the whole, Giswald case, an egg stain case, saying that it's too big to fail. Like, if we were actually to dig into this, the whole system would come crumbling down. Well, maybe it needs to come crumbling down because these people are lying at the expense of us here at the bottom. They're getting away with all kinds of crimes. Wow. Let's read this. Leading British U.S. scientists thought it was likely that Vidco leaked from a lab, but were concerned that further debate would harm science in China, email shows. An email from Sir Jeremy Farrar, director of the Wellcome Trust, on February said that a likely explanation was that VidCo had rapidly evolved from a SARS-like inside human tissue in a low-security lab. The email to Fauci, here's the email, and Francis Collins went on to say that such evolution may have accidentally created a virus primed for rapid transmission between humans. Wow. So there you go. And this guy's still giving advice to the world. More lies and misinfo. Now, look at this story. This is interesting. A FBI double agent, it appears, was cooking up a kidnapping scheme and got caught. And the agent even offered money to carry out the attacks. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is FBI 101. If you can't catch a terrorist, you just make one. The FBI knew exactly what its double agent was doing, says a defendant in the Michigan kidnapping case. So they groom these people. They offer them money, people that are already leaning the right direction, and then they bust them. It's a complete setup from start to finish, patsy all the way. Let's read this. An attorney for one of the defendants in an alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has launched a direct attack on the credibility of prosecution, claiming it misrepresented its knowledge of the actions of a key FBI informant, whom it recently disparaged as a rogue double agent. So they're basically trying to cover it up. They're saying this guy was a double agent, but really he wasn't. He was helping them to try to do a honey trap setup. And this is what these people spend all their time doing, because there aren't enough people out there with sentiment to the degree where they would actually take action, because they've dumbed down and made all of America lazy. So no one even has the initiative to want to carry something like this out, even if they had feelings about these people. And so they simply cook all this stuff up because they have to keep the fear going, because if they don't keep the fear going, then they lose control. Now, everything I'm telling you today is the truth, you guys. I know sometimes it might feel like we're focused on the negative, but if you don't wake up to this stuff and you're walking through your life believing their narrative, then you will be deceived every single time, because the narrative is set up to deceive you. So when you come to this channel, you're basically getting unprogrammed from the programming. And so hopefully it's a positive thing, because then you know what you're walking into, you know what you're dealing with. You're not wasting your time doing things like voting and thinking that a person's going to have your back and you're going to vote for that person. You're not invested in an economy that is set up for the rich. We'll get into that later in the show, because they're making money hand over fist, insider trading at your expense. But they need your investment money so they can make all that money. Because if all of us at the bottom weren't investing, they wouldn't be able to make the money they did, would they? So the Bible says, when you seek out riches, you will stab yourself all over the body with many pains. It actually says that in the Bible. And the reason is because the system is set up for the rich. The people at the bottom, if you keep trying, you're just going to keep hitting glass ceilings and brick walls. They'll let a few through to make it look like, oh, look at that person. But the odds are so stacked against you that it would be a miracle and pure chance, and many times just pure luck, and sometimes a pitfall from the devil if you ever did break through, because the devil will just use you once you break through to destroy your life and those around you. And that's pretty much how it works. So here's the new word on VidCo. They're saying that all of us now will be infected. Here they're saying half of Europe, and according to the shamed slouchy, who just can't seem to get kicked out of office here, just about everybody will get it. What? Like, how do you know this? How do they know that every single person is going to get Omicron? I mean, here's what I think is really happening here. I don't think this is being transmitted in the way that they say it is. I mean, how can they say with certainty that they know every single person will get this? Let's see what the defamed slouchy has to say. I think in many respects, Omicron, with its extraordinary and unprecedented degree of efficiency and transmissibility, will ultimately find just about everybody. He said in a fireside chat, wow. His comment came one day after the U.S. set an all-time record for daily infections, 1.4 million. Slouchy went on to reference statements he made last year in which he said that VidCo would likely not be eradicated but controlled. It's no way, I believe, likely, I mean aspirational, but not likely, that we're going to eliminate it. Well, here we are. I mean, there are several places that have far surpassed the 80% Pokemon sticker rate and never reached this herd immunity that they wanted. And the goal was like 75% in the beginning. And then they changed it to like 85, and then they changed it to like 90% to reach herd immunity. So these people are all over the place. They have no idea what they are talking about. Now, let's look at this article. More lies and misinfo from Alan Jerkowitz, reportedly lobbied the Thump man to pardon Giswell before the trial. Now, before you give Thump props for not doing this, for not pardoning her, understand that back at the end of his presidency, I told you guys that her pardon was on the table. I said, most definitely, he is considering pardoning her. And I was right, according to this article, that he was considering this. Why? Now, why would Jerkowitz go to Thump and have a discussion with him about Greasewell? And Thump claims he doesn't know her or doesn't know her well. It's because they both knew that she had dirt on them. They didn't know how much dirt, and they didn't know how important she held her life. Because her cohort had just got taken out. So, of course, she probably wouldn't talk. And so it looks like Thump gambled, and it looks like she's probably not going to talk. But now we know why. Because they put in a saboteur juror in to get the case thrown out. So this was all a plot. Just understand that none of this is by accident. That this all happened to get her off the hook. She probably made a deal. So, and understand that if Thump would have pardoned her, that his credibility would have been on the line. And it would have brought on a lot more suspicion and attention to him. And this is probably why he didn't do it. Let's read this. Alan Jerkowitz reportedly lobbied Thump to pardon Greasewell before the trial. He lobbied the president. Now understand that on the national stage, when a news outlet makes a report or, a story like this, that it is seen by the people it's talked about. So if they don't come out and, refute this or challenge it or set the record straight, then it's the truth. Now, it's much different here in social media land. I've had people do videos on me and say if he does not respond, then it means that he is lying. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. You have like no subscribers, and I'm not going to go through YouTube and do a search every day looking for people, making claims about me, right? But in the national media, this is a much different case. When a public claim is made, this is New York Post right in his home territory. And if he does not set the record straight and say that it was a lie, then because they have people that do all this for them. Right? They're publicists and things. They're the ones that look at the headlines and go, hey, this outlet is saying this about you. What do you want to do? And they handle it. And we know that Thump has a history of handling these kinds of things by calling it fake news, doesn't he? So, understand this is how the world works with the news headlines. Now, the claim here is that Jerkowitz had a talk with Thump. Let's just read this. 84-year-old lawyer himself, long accused of having the bad word with one of the late egg-stained teen accusers, pushed for the pardon with UK media heiress Greasewell. Okay, the retired Harvard Law professor was able to use his close ties to Thump, which he also represented during his impeachment trial. One of the convicted Madam's brothers, Ian, confirmed to the UK paper that he had discussed the possibility of clemency with Dershowitz, who got egg-stained his controversial wrist slap 2008 plea deal. So, this is the record. Let's see what Thump says about it. My guess is he won't say a word because any additional attention that's put on this is not good for him. But all these people were involved. From top to bottom, they were all involved. And now it's just a matter of how do we cover it up? How do we make it go away? How do we contain the situation? How do we give the public what they want without giving them what they want? Let's go on to this next story. Now, here's a prime example of how these millionaire, billionaire celebrities just can't get enough, right? I think probably everyone in this chat right now, if you had $1 million, that would be enough. You'd be like, you know what? Worked hard my whole life, and somebody gave me $1 million. That's great. I'm done. That's all I need. I'll make that stretch till the end of my days. I'll serve the Lord, and everything's going to be great. But these people are just greedy because once they get a taste of the good life, and that good life has to be maintained. You're talking taxes. You're talking, maintenance of all these things. You're talking insurance. I mean, many of these people alone have monthly costs that are approaching, $20,000, $30,000 a month just to maintain their empires or more. And then they start to look at themselves as little gods, don't they? So they come up with these scams. Now understand that these scams were put in place for a reason. My opinion is that the whole crypto thing was set up to further milk the people at the bottom, to make it look like the people's currency. And then the people at the top are the ones that create these coins, and then they pump and dump the coins. And now this scam is coming to light. So people get caught holding the bag. You and I just get caught holding the bag when there was an entire scenario cooked up from start to finish to rob the people at the bottom. Another tool for the elite to make money off the little people by dangling this carrot of hope and riches. So, Kim Kardashian, Floyd Mayweather sued over alleged crypto scam. Let's read about what they did here. Now, this was a class action lawsuit in which Kim and Floyd were named, and basketball star Paul Pierce as defendants for promoting a cryptocurrency called Ethereum Max. According to Finbold, the plaintiffs sued the celebrities and still unidentified entities behind the tokens for causing the value of the Ethereum knockoff to soar so that they could sell their portion of the float for a profit. Lawsuit lists anybody who invested in the token between May 14th and June 27th, 2021 as a defendant. The claimants are accusing the defendants of perpetuating a pump and dump scheme in which investors sell off their shares to make a lot of money after orchestrating a rise in its value. Now think about how easy this is for these celebrities to do. So you get a very popular celebrity and they go and talk to a couple of their less popular celebrity friends. And they say, hey, you give me 30% of the value of this pump and dump, and I'll key you in on what we're going to do. And then we can all make money. But I'm the popular one, so I'll send out a tweet or I'll send out an Instagram post with this new coin. We'll get all these people to buy it because they all will, because this is what people do, right? This is how lost people are. They'll actually buy a crypto coin just because a celebrity promotes it, someone that they like, or because they want to ride on that celebrity's riches. And they go, oh, if they endorse it, then this is going to be popular and this is going to make a lot of money. And then the whole time, the celebrities knew that they were going to hold on to it for a certain time till a bunch of people got it, and they were just going to pull their profits out of it, pull all the money out. This is the pyramid scheme. This is exactly what it is. When you have someone at the top to make these coins popular, that's a pyramid scheme. How many coins do you know that came up from the bottom that were created by a person at the bottom that just so happened to get popular? Very, very few. Now, there are rumors that the same thing happened with this Squid Game. They made a Squid Game crypto coin. Same thing happened. And this is why the Bible tells you, if you go after this stuff, if you try to be rich, you will stab yourself all over the body with many pains. Because there are people who put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this stuff, believing the lie. So we'll continue to follow that story as well as time goes on. Now, let's make sure you guys are with me, and then we're going to get into this next story here. Make sure we're connected up. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming to the channel today. All right. So we all know about Bob Saget. Okay. We all know what happened. And, most people understand that this man was probably not a good man. But why would you assume, this is Candace Owens here, why would you assume without any evidence that it was the sticker that killed him? And if you did, would you state that publicly? Even if you did believe that that was the case, unless you had solid evidence. Here's the thing with this. You have to pick your battles. We can't jump on every single celebrity death and call it a sacrifice. We can't jump on every single person that died and say that it was, for a matter of fact, because of the Pokemon sticker. And this is why I think people like Candace Owens are controlled op. She knows what Thump's about. She's not stupid. Yet she interviewed the guy and barely called him out for anything just a few weeks ago. Now, the only way that you could have deep suspicion about this is if, let's say, Saget sent out like a text message or made a post on social media that he had just gotten the sticker and maybe he wasn't feeling well. Or he could have even been more specific and said, the minute that I left, I just wasn't feeling well. But here's the things with these celebrities. They're never, ever, ever going to say that because that doesn't fit the agenda. Even if they weren't feeling well after the sticker, they do not want to be associated with the people that deny the sticker because they've been threatened. They've been told, you better toe the line on this. If you don't, your career is over. You'll never work again in Hollywood. This is what they've been told. So, here's what's going on. Now they're going to make fun of Candace Owens, and then we all get lumped in with her. And these are the kinds of stories that just set us back, in my opinion. Now, here's another story. This is an update to this Washington quarantine camp story. Remember this? Now, here's the crazy thing. This is a fact-checked article here. They're trying to wash this away as if nothing happened, nothing to see here, move along. But here's what did happen with this. There are already laws on the books that include VidCo-19, not by name, but they call it an infectious disease. And so VidCo would apply to this. And these laws are on the books as we speak for them to do exactly what the claim is said that they would do. Quarantine people forcefully. Now, they admit here that this law is on the books in this article and that VidCo can fall under this law. And that, yes, you may be detained, but then they say in here that you can appeal your case with the judge. But they say forcibly detaining you, which is what the current law says they can do, was not on their agenda in this particular meeting. See how they twist this? But then they go on to say that it may be on the agenda at future meetings, but just not this meeting. So, lies, misdirection, misinfo. So they, of course, rate the story false, but in reading between the lines, you could see exactly what they were getting at. Let's read through some of this This is important. A routine meeting at the Washington State Board of Health on Wednesday became the topic of a nationwide misinformation campaign this week, as social media users, political hopefuls, and conservative pundits spun bogus claims that the meeting would include a vote to force the unstickered residents into quarantine camps. Communication manager for the board said it had been inundated with more than 30,000 public comments. Good. Isn't that what America is about? Aren't we supposed to have free and open debate and be able to voice our complaints? Why is this a bad thing that people complain because of a concern they had? And it says related to the false theory which misrepresented the board's scheduled discussion on HIV as a proposed change to a policy. So let's keep reading here, because reading between the lines, right? Claims erupted across social media where widely circulated posts spawned fears of internment camps. Even after the board clarified its facts on the website Friday, the false notion that the state was plotting to hunt down and detain unstickered persisted across social media. Here's a closer look at the facts. Okay, let's read here. Washington State Board was scheduled to consider a proposed rule to change the proposed rule change to allow the involuntary detainment of unstickered residents in quarantine camps. That's the claim. Here's what they say the facts are. This false claim completely misrepresents the State Board of Health's scheduled Wednesday discussion. What we're doing on Wednesday with the communicable disease rule really doesn't have anything to do with VidCo-19. Okay, maybe that meeting doesn't, but let's keep reading. Whenever lawmakers in Washington state pass new bills into law, state agencies codify those laws by creating rules and regulations in the Washington Administrative Code. The code has had a section on communicable and certain diseases since at least 1988. So right here they admit it has had a section on a communicable and certain other diseases since 1988. And it gets amended if lawmakers pass legislation that affects it. In June, they passed a bill of June 2020. They passed a bill ending statutory AIDS exceptionalism. So in other words, they made it so that HIV wasn't one of the diseases that applied to these rules of quarantine. Okay? Now, listen to this part. The section the board has proposed adjusting governs the state's handling of communicable and certain other infectious diseases. So they're admitting the laws in place. VidCo is a communicable disease, and it falls under that category, so they're admitting that too. But the changes that are currently being proposed do not alter the state's handling of the disease. Okay, so, but see the smoke screen here? Taking your eyes off of this actual law, which everyone can go read right now, that talks about detaining people. Now, let's keep reading here. This law is a subsection of the code that deals specifically with quarantine and isolation procedures. It has existed since 2003, so they're admitting it here. Social media users claim the State Board of Health was proposing a change to that section. Does it matter? Does it matter if it's already in place, whether or not it was going to be changed? No, it doesn't. So let's keep reading here. No proposed changes since it's been introduced. Again, smoke screening you away from the actual law and exactly what it says about quarantine and internment. The Washington State's Republican caucus also tweeted a document fact-checking the false claims. Grellner said he believed the state has only used its quarantine and isolation procedures with regards to tuberculosis. So they even have a history of using this on people with tuberculosis outbreaks. Rarely at that, but it doesn't matter. He added that I would like to dig into this and see exactly what they did to these people who had tuberculosis. And if any were held against their will, or they were arrested or detained or whatever else. We should look into the history of this. He added the procedures don't give health officials unilateral authority to take someone against their will. Individuals affected would have the right to petition a superior court for release. So they arrest you first and ask questions later, is what they're saying here. Read between the lines, always. Many states have long had laws in place giving health officers varying degrees of authority to require someone to quarantine or isolate. Some social media users falsely claim that the State Board of Health's meeting Wednesday would also include a vote to require Vidco Pokemon stickers for school-aged children. Okay, so obviously that wasn't on their agenda, but look what they say. The board clarified on its website that it would receive a briefing from an advisory group on the topic at the meeting, but it wouldn't take any action on the matter Wednesday. So we are going to talk about it, but we weren't going to take any action. Other posts revived the months-old misleading claim that the governor was hiring a strike team to run camps where unstickered residents could be forced to quarantine. That claim stems from a real job posting, but not for the positions forcing residents to quarantine. Instead, it's a posting dealing with one facility in Centralia, Washington, where visitors to the state could safely quarantine if they had no other place to go. So why would you need a strike team if people came there voluntarily and had somewhere else to go? Why would you have a strike team job position open? That doesn't make any sense. Wow. Mike Falk, a press secretary for Inslee, confirmed in an email to the AP that the governor has never considered hiring teams to hunt down unstickered people or force them to quarantine. So why is there a job posting for it then? Wow. Now I think back here they say something about these school-aged children. Okay, that's about it. I wanted to go through this in detail because I did report on this as if I knew for a fact that this is what they were going to be covering, and that was my bad. But as you can see, they're still not off the hook. They're still lying, basically, about certain parts and aspects of this and not being completely forthcoming with all of this. Now, let's get into this next story. What better way to stimulate the economy than to change all the tax laws, creating magnitudes more work for the IRS, delaying people's tax returns, and creating an atmosphere of fear and tax uncertainty for the working American. Brilliant work, Bo Jiven. Now, many of you still haven't even received your tax returns from last year. Now, here's their answer to all this. They want to further fund the IRS. $80 billion they're proposing with this Build Back Better bill, so that they can create even more scary tax auditors and micromanagers, peering into every single aspect of your life. Now, I knew this was coming just because of some of the tax laws that they had put in place, like, for instance, the PayPal thing, where they can go in and PayPal has to actually report 1099s to the IRS for any account over $600 per year, which pretty much covers most people that use PayPal. Most people that use PayPal in a calendar year have had at least $600 go through their account. So what they're going to do here now is create all that new extra work. So people are going to have to take that form into their tax person, and that's all extra work. And it sounds to me like the IRS has bit off more than it can chew. They can't even deal with the current laws in tax season, and now we have this on top of it. Let's read this. Taxes 2022. IRS watchdog is deeply concerned as agency faces kryptonite. Last year's tax filing season was rife with problems and refund delays, according to a new report, and this year stands to be more of the same when it comes to Americans' taxes. While my report focuses primarily on the problems of 2021, I am deeply concerned about the upcoming filing season. This year's report detailed processing and refund delays, challenges in hiring and training, customer service failures, among many other problems the agency faced. Many of these issues stem from the challenges inflicted by the spam-demic, as well as last-minute tax legislation. So there you go. it's like they're trying to implode the economy. Now, we all know why they're doing this, but this is the kind of proof you need to show people. Like, why would you overhaul the tax, the tax system and the tax laws when you don't have the infrastructure to support it? It makes no sense. This is a last minute money grab. They actually want to go into people's regular bank accounts and see if you've received or sent money out and match that up with your income to see if you're not, avoiding taxes. Unbelievable. So this story is a little bit troubling. They found the gene that separates people who get gravely ill from VidCo and those that just get like bad flu symptoms. And apparently this gene affects people along racial lines. Now, what does the article say? Well, it says in here that the gene is present in 14% of the Polish population, only 8 to 9% in Europe, and 27% in India. Now, this is huge. This is triple or double what it is in other races. And now we're starting to understand what the I Pet Goat 2 scene was, with the Indian boy laying in the lungi next to the needle and the pills against the backdrop of the sticker technology and how they make the stickers, which is in an egg. Now, these current stickers are not made in eggs, but past stickers were made inside. They were cultured inside of chicken eggs. So now the whole scene is starting to make sense. India being hit very, very hard by this, having this particular gene that predisposes them to death. Now, interestingly, because myself being African American, I instantly thought to myself, I wonder if African Americans have the gene as well. Well, they're saying they don't. This is an article from, let's see what this is here. What is this? This is from Science. And here's another article about the gene. And they're saying here that African Americans do not have it. It's absent in most people of African ancestry. It says most people. So what does that mean? But they're saying here that black people were actually hit very hard in the US and the UK, above the average. So it does feel like they were targeted, but they're saying that they did not have the chromosome 3 variant. Most don't. So I don't know what that means. Could be a cover-up. Who knows? So, interesting nonetheless. All right, what else do we have here? Well, the spamdemic is affecting the birth rate worldwide. Now, we told you this was going to happen back when it started, that this would affect the birth rate. 60,000 missing births in America. Now, when you combine this fact with what else is going on with younger people in America harming themselves, and the increase of that happening during the spamdemic, the statistics are off the charts, you guys. We told you that was going to happen. You don't go into a child's only refuge for many of them, which is their school life, and basically rip the rug out from under them when they aren't even the ones who are affected by this, forcing them into mass homeschooling, then back to school, then back to home, then back to school. They lose all their friends. You don't do that to children. And it seems as though they are the ones that are disproportionately affected by the harming of oneself. So, as those children become young adults, this is a time when a lot of people opt to start having children. And so this will further erode these birth rates because they simply are not there. So what does this all mean for the future? Well, a particular scripture comes to mind. Had he not cut those days short, there would be no flesh left. So, now, starting to get toward the end of there's a lot of stories to get caught up on, so Hope you guys are getting something out of this. Now, as many of you know, the Supreme Court just blocked Bo's mandates that forced the larger companies to force the sticker. Now, this sounds like good news, but here's the problem. The mandate still stands for institutions under Medicare, which basically includes most doctors and nurses and anyone that works in the healthcare industry. So they are still hosed. And interestingly, this article does not say a word about the military. Apparently, that was not addressed under this Supreme Court ruling. So it sounds like the mandate for the military will still stand. Now, if I'm wrong on that, let me know. But this is based on my research. This is what's going on with this. So anything federal that was mandated to federal employees is staying. And Medicare, because that's federally funded, so they can force them as well, but not for the private businesses. They call this a commandeering of the private sector, is what the Supreme Court called it. So I guess this is good news, but it won't be long before all the judges are compromised as well, and they go along with all of this. It's just a slow, steady decline in the human rights in America is where this is headed. And they have to make it look like it happened slowly. They can't just do it overnight, because then people would revolt. Now, let me check in with you guys. We'll get into some of these last stories. Make sure you guys are with me here. Hello, everyone. It's Friday. We're almost to the weekend here. Now, we got a lot of talk about chimeras. A lot of people talk about chimeras. It's a very popular subject. The mixing of human with animal. Okay. Well, this Maryland man just got a new heart, except that the heart was made from a pig. So now this man is part pig and part human. Now, what comes to mind with this kind of situation is the mixing of clean with the unclean mentioned in the Bible. Let's read this. Maryland man receives genetically altered pig heart during life-saving, it's not even spelled right, life-saving experimental surgery. Doing okay 3 days after surgery. Man, wonder if he's going to grow a curly tail or start oinking like a pig. In a medical first, doctors transplanted a pig heart into a patient in a last-ditch effort to save his life. And a Maryland hospital said Monday that he's doing well 3 days after the highly experimental surgery. While it's too soon to know if the operation really will work, it marks a step in the decades-long quest to one day use animal organs for life-saving transplants. Doctors at the University of Maryland Medical Center say the transplant showed that a heart from a genetically modified animal can function in a human body without immediate rejection. Wow, it was even genetically modified. The patient, David Bennett, who got a heart. Oh, no, that's a dumb joke. A 57-year-old Maryland handyman knew there were no guarantees to the experiment and that it would work, but he was dying, ineligible for a human heart transplant, and had no other option. So this is what they do. They experiment on the desperate people, right? This guy's like, hey, you're going to give me a free pig heart? Oh, let's go for it. I got no other options. And this is how medicine advances. It doesn't advance the way that they say it does. It doesn't advance out of humility and careful choices and love and all of the fruitages of the Spirit. It advances out of desperate people and them wanting to experiment on people through their desperation. So, I don't know how long this guy's going to last, but he has now officially become a chimera. Unbelievable. Now, what is this next story here? Now, here's the thing that upsets me about this story. Money always talks, doesn't it? And the average cost of a cruise ship, if you didn't know this, I had to look this up, is $1 billion. These cruise ships cost $1 billion. Okay. As you can see here, that's for like a mid-size to a large cruise ship. And there are actually over 300 cruise ships around the world. As you can see here, there's 314 cruise ships. So we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in cruise ships cruising around the world, right? Now, many of these cruise ships go into debt the day that they launch, but it only takes about 5 to 7 years to pay off a cruise ship. Apparently, they make a lot of money. That is crazy. To be able to pay off $1 billion in 5 to 7 years with just by going on cruises. So for them, apparently, these cruise ships get to ditch the guidelines to save the industry. Now, I think it's a good thing that they're ditching the guidelines, but here's the problem. We've created this have and have not situation in America, where some are penalized for the very same action that others are rewarded for. So, the cruise industry obviously is a very profitable industry, a lot of people making a lot of money, and apparently it's too big to fail. But here's the problem. For small businesses, and you and me, we're the ones that get hosed. We're the ones that are stuffed into our masks and shamed by each other. We're so dumb, we actually shame each other. While these cruise industry gets away with billions of dollars in profits every year. So let's read this. Guidance to become optional for cruise lines as VidCo continues to spread. Let's see what reason they give for this. Cruise lines will no longer be obliged to follow VidCo guidance on their ships, according to the CEEDS. The framework for conditional sailing order, which was extended and modified in October, will expire Saturday, at which point the health agency's VidCo guidance for cruise ships will become voluntary. Why can't it be voluntary for us then? This means cruise lines can choose whether to follow the health agency's guidance or not. Health agency is transitioning to a voluntary VidCo-19 mitigation program. Okay, so how about for us? Which is the way it should have been in the very beginning. The program includes guidance recommendations for cruise ships to keep operating in a way that fosters a safer and healthier environment for passengers. Cruise ships operating in the U.S. waters choosing to participate in the program on a voluntary basis agree to follow all recommendations and guidance issued by the organization that shall not be named. And the vessels operating in U.S. waters and sailing international itineraries that choose not to participate will be classified as gray as their color status. Okay, so here we go, you guys. Here we go. So that's about all I had for you guys in between the headlines today. We'll may or may not do a weekend show, but I do have a couple of shows queued up already for next week. And those shows I may cover on the weekend. It all depends. But basically, the first decode on Monday or over the weekend will be on the film Terminator Genesis. And it's all about the infection that mixes man with machine. We're going to cover that. And then several of you had also asked me to look at a film called The Brothers Grimsby. Now, let me give you a quick synopsis of that film so that you watch this decode on this comedy film. So there's a pathogen that spread through fireworks, 2 fireworks to be exact, at a football stadium. And while Thump is sitting in the stands, literally he's there in the stands, and he catches AIDS by sitting in this spot in the bleachers where a bullet comes through, hits a guy with AIDS, and the blood spills into Thump's mouth. So he makes 2 cameo appearances in the film. The main character in the film wears a jersey number 19 throughout the film. And the last player that scores the winning goal carries the number 19 on his jersey as well. Now, this film came out before he was elected and before VidCo. But yet you're going to hear presidential music in the film as his cameo appearance takes place. You can't tell me these people didn't know what was going to happen. So I put together a montage. We'll be breaking that down. That will be on Tuesday. And there's much, much more. I just gave you a synopsis of it. They mention 5G Whiz and all kinds of other stuff. So, wow. So that's about it, you guys, for today. Let me go into the chat. Yeah, I couldn't believe that either. I mean, I was like, wow, really? Thanks for whoever asked me to look at the film. Now, again, I want to give a disclaimer here. I don't know if anyone else has covered this film. I don't watch other people's channels. I don't have the time, to be honest with you. All of my research I do on my own. I don't watch other channels unless one of you sends me a link, and usually I'll only cover that if it's a very, very small channel, and then I'll let you know that I looked at it. Like, for instance, the guy who filmed the inside of Fizzer's World Headquarters. Okay? But I don't go around following the big channels to get ideas for this channel. We simply don't do that. I don't have the time to do it. And honestly, that's very insincere and very rude to do that. I get irritated when people do that to me, when they follow my channel and then claim it as their own, and their whole channel is basically a mirror of my channel without ever saying our name. And I've seen channels, you guys have all seen them do it. Now, there are some channels that do it correctly because information is free, right? It doesn't come from me, it comes from the Most High. So the channels that do it correctly, they'll actually put a little thing down there and say, this is from Enter the Stars channel. And that's the way it should be. So I don't know if anyone's covered that movie, but we're going to look through it ourselves, and there will be new information in case anyone's covered it already. All right. What else do we have here? Has anyone seen the Marvel's movie, The Eternals? No, I have not seen that one yet. Yes, the Holy Spirit shows some people the same thing at the same time. And that's why I try not to get upset about it anymore. I used to get upset about it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is a work of the Holy Spirit, getting the word out to as many people as possible and disclosing it to all of us at the same time. But you guys know the channels that intentionally watch other people's channels, get information, and then never mention the channel that they got the idea from. That does happen. Yeah. Trump makes a cameo in the film Home Alone. Yeah. Was there a spamdemic aspect to that movie? Because this one had this whole infection spamdemic aspect to it, where they were going to, infect everybody in the stadium. It was crazy. I just got through the movie. I would not recommend the Brothers Grimsby to watch. It's very, very rude and uncouth and just a disgusting movie. There's all these innuendo in it, and the movie actually was not that popular, so I would not recommend it. It's just a dirty film. So, but I had to plow through it so I could, pull out the clips. Actually, there was a couple parts where I had to actually censor out some of the images, but I just cut those clips out because there were enough clips showing him wearing the jersey number 19 to where I didn't have to use the clip of him with his pants down, basically. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for showing up today. And, we may get together on the weekend. Just stay posted. If we do, it'll be mid-morning, probably. Sometimes I'll go live with stuff. I love you guys, and I hope you have a great weekend. Take care and be safe.